People working over the weekend right now. This is about stability of the oil supply, isn't it? And the stability of prices.
Well, I don't think that's the foremost concern the U.S. has in mind, and simply because when you look at the whole region, instability anywhere in the region is going to impact oil prices. There's nothing the United States can do about that. And so it's not as though we can sort of finely tune the way the oil price responds with a statement.
Has struck his deals with multinational companies.
Sure.
You don't necessarily want that all have to be renegotiated and for there to be a period of instability in the interim. And who knows will replace him after all, let's face it.
Well, I think that if you were sort of omnipotent and could control that, that would be one thing. But there isn't practically anything the United States can do to prevent instability in the region. I mean, the fact is that I think employees of multinationals are probably leaving Libya or will be leaving Libya due to this unrest. And there will be concern amongst the multinational corporations about what's happening in Libya, regardless of anything the United States says. And certainly the United States can't responsibly urge people to, for example, stay in Libya if, in fact, the situation is unstable. So I think right now it's more a matter for the United States of trying to take, a responsible position and to speak in a way that is that comports with our values, but also to try to make it so the United States is not in the middle of the story, in a sense.
You know, get the best of all worlds is basically what
well, you'd love to get the best of all worlds,
right.
But I think they're trying to take a country by country approach.
Even while heavy military machinery is being used on protesters, it might not be quite so easy.
Well, it'll demand a tougher approach from the United States. There's no doubt about that. As these developments go on, I don't think the United States can continue to sit back.
Michael Singh, I think you're staying with us for a bit longer for some more analysis, perhaps on Bahrain as well and some of the other developments, but thank you for the moment.
Thank you.
And there are reports of violent clashes between anti-government demonstrators and supporters of the Libyan leader in Tripoli. Earlier we heard from a protester who was taking part in a march towards a square in the capital.
1 hour ago, I don't know, a good 1,500, 2,000 people now gathered. They blocked all roads. They burn anything that's owned by the government on the way. I mean, we're now burning a picture of the president. That's why the noise is so loud and everybody's happy. There's women on the balconies screaming and singing and loving it.
And this is all happening in Tripoli?
Yep, yeah. And we're walking now towards the Green Square. We're going down the town. These people you can hear next to me now are screaming, obviously, chants of, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Come out if you're a man. Where are you?"
Which square are you heading towards?
I believe we're heading towards the Green Square. To be honest, nobody controls these people. You know, we just do what we want. But at the moment, there's no police, there's no army, there's no security forces. Everything's been blocked off by the protesters. And, you know, as we cross the town where apartment buildings are filled with people who live here, we are picking up people on the way. You know, everybody's been waiting for this, and it's finally happened.
Another protester we spoke to in Tripoli told us earlier that security forces prevented marchers from going into the main square initially.
Unfortunately, we are late. We have been late from the Green Square because these people use live ammunition, and of course people cannot resist live ammunition. We reached to the gates of the square, but they got us out of the gates of the square. There must be some kind of security meetings at the moment because the Green Square is devoid from security people and from any movement. People are refusing to sabotage and cause any damage. Everyone wants to get into the square.
Well, EU foreign affairs ministers met to discuss developments in Libya and elsewhere. The working dinner was chaired by the EU's foreign policy chief, Catherine Ashton, who will fly to Egypt for talks next week. She'll be the first foreign diplomat to visit that country since the fall of President Hosni Mubarak. She said she was concerned at the continuing violence in Libya.
I'm really worried about what's happening in Libya at the present time. We've been urging restraint. We continue to do so. It's very important. You'll have heard it, I think, from all the foreign ministers coming in that you've asked tonight. It's very, very important that this violence stops and they move to dialogue.
The United Nations, meanwhile, has defended its relationship with Libya and its place on the Human Rights Council.
And they have been trying to get in to look at human rights issues in Libya over a long period of time, and they have not been allowed access. And this is what I think people need to understand. The United Nations is made up of its member states. Libya was voted on to the United Nations Human Rights Council, so if there are concerns about Libya being a member of that council, It's for the other member states to recognise that and to vote them off.
Libyan special forces have reportedly attacked the lawyers and judges protesting in front of a Benghazi courthouse. Earlier, Kamal Hudaytifi, a judge in Benghazi, described what he saw to Al Jazeera.
What is happening in Libya is genocide, with the full meaning of the word. I would like to assure all Libyans that victory is near, very near. The violence used by the tyrant and his cronies in ugly fashion, the pictures can illustrate to you what is happening. He used anti-aircraft ammunition against humans. They stopped ambulances from entering Mitre Square in Birka area to treat the injured. He used all type of violence, using mercenaries, popular committees. He wanted to burn the country. We learned that he said, I created Libya and I will bring it down.
The Egyptian government blocked our signal during the uprising there. Now the Libyan government appears to be doing the same right across the Arabsat network. Both Al Jazeera English and our sister channel Al Jazeera Arabic have been blocked, and it's been traced to the southern part of Tripoli. You can still watch us though on the Nilesat network at this frequency on your screen. And on the Hotbird network, you can use these settings. Our sister channel, Al Jazeera Arabic, broadcasts on these signals on Nilesat. And on Hotbird, these are the settings you need. They'll be on our ticker as well as on our website. They have also opened up 2 new ports on Arabsat. Al Jazeera Arabic is broadcasting on these 2 frequencies there. So let's return to our analyst Michael Singh, formerly of the National Security Council. You were saying, though, that there are no tears for Gaddafi in Washington then. There are no tears for Ahmadinejad, and yet we do hear quite robust statements about that. So I'm still unsure as to why then we wouldn't get a more forceful denunciation of what's happening. Libya doesn't have the Fifth Fleet in port. It doesn't, I mean, perhaps there is actually some cooperation on, quote, war on terror issues. Which perhaps we should go into, which are quite interesting. But why are they being so hands-off, do you think, then? What's the difference?
Well, I think that the statement you saw was actually quite different from the initial reactions to, say, Egypt and Tunisia, where there was this kind of sort of tenor of support for the government while trying to support the protesters. At the same time, I think that you have to look at a couple things. One is that the United States doesn't want to be seen as sort of fomenting chaos, and so they're trying to strike the right tone without being seen to do that. Second, frankly, they're simply adapting as they go here. They're
but this
sort of
idea of wanting
reacting
to be on the side of history that we keep hearing.
Right.
It seems rather sentimental for a hard-nosed government with real strategic interests in a region. Is it just a need to be loved then? I mean, is that what they're straddling?
Well, I think there's a recognition that democracy, respect for human rights, these are things which are not only comport with our values in the United States, but that are in our interest in the long run. We have better relationships with democracies. Democracies contribute to stability. Yet at the same time,
except when they're in Gaza or elsewhere, where there might be a chance that the wrong party would be voted in.
Well, I think long term is the key word there. But I think that what the United States is hoping for